Welcome to Case Study Interview Prep 101 for business, data, and finance roles. Case interviews give us an opportunity to gauge how you solve problems and give you a chance to test drive the type of work you'll be doing as a Capital One associate. Our interviews are conversational, focusing on real business scenarios from a variety of industries. In this video, we'll outline case study interviews, review sample questions to help you better prepare, and provide interview tips from recent hires and interviewers. Case study interviews are based on real business problem simulations where you will be asked open-ended questions. The interviewer will measure your problem-solving skills and your conceptual, analytical, and creative abilities. In the case study interview, we focus on 3 different areas: communication, quantitative analysis, and conceptual problem solving. Let's start with communication. Candidates should be engaged and interested in finding a solution, actively listening and able to explain the task at hand, and able to clearly articulate their thoughts through pointed questions and structured responses. To show great communication, candidates should structure and organize thoughts for all questions. This will help to provide sufficient depth and avoid long-winded responses. Keep organized notes to separate out sections of a problem. In some questions, you'll have a lot of information to digest, and there will be multiple components. It may be helpful to split your notes into sections to keep you on track. It's okay to take a moment to structure your thoughts instead of providing immediate responses. You should start explaining the framework and your thinking behind the framework as you continue to structure your thoughts. Interviewees are encouraged to ask clarifying questions about the business model, industry trends, and client before constructing their framework. If you're unsure of something, verify your assumptions with your interviewer. Next, let's look at quantitative analysis. Quantitative analysis is the process of using math to structure and solve a problem you're given. While the topics for analysis can vary greatly, most problems can be structured and solved in repeatable ways. In this section, we're looking for candidates to demonstrate an ability to use mathematical concepts to solve problems. When you're conducting a quantitative analysis, make sure you talk to your interviewer and explain your approach to each section before carrying out the calculations to help them follow your thought process. Reuse calculations from previous steps as it saves time, shows a greater understanding, and reduces errors. Write down what you're solving so you don't need to re-ask what you're solving for. Refresh your knowledge on these common calculations: break-even, profit, weighted average, expected value, and contribution margin. Ensure you understand the formulas and concepts well enough to take shortcuts and solve problems in multiple ways. Let's take a look at the last section, conceptual problem solving. In this section, we're looking for candidates who attempt to solve problems through creative solutions, rely on sound logic and judgment, as well as reasonably safe assumptions, and think strategically, prioritizing key factors and avoiding action bias. To put conceptual problem solving into action, make assessments based on the business context and check your answers to make sure the number makes sense. For example, if we say a small business is barely profitable and you get an answer that the profit is 30 million, that should be a red flag. From the time you receive a prompt to when you provide your answers, make sure to continue structuring your thoughts and clarifying your assumptions with the interviewer. Then share your top 2 to 3 ideas in detail. Overall, you should be spending 1.5 to 2 minutes to complete your initial answer, although this may vary based on the complexity of the question. When giving an answer, ask yourself, are there any additional qualitative considerations that would change your answer? When considering the business implications, think about what the calculations are telling you and how this links to the conceptual factors. Now that we've gone over what we look for during the interview, let's try a practice case. We've highlighted the first 2 questions from a longer case study that we've used at Capital One. When answering these types of qualitative questions, ensure you provide relevant examples to the business at hand, using applicable formulas and frameworks to arrive at your answer. Your friend runs a small independent coffee shop in a large urban center. He's a coffee expert and loves making his customers happy, but has little business or financial experience. He has asked you to help him assess his shop. Question 1. What information would you want to know to determine if the coffee shop is profitable? Ready for the answer? You'd want to know the revenue, which includes the revenue per good sold, number of goods sold, and distribution of goods sold. You'd also want to know the variable costs, such as the cost to make coffee and baked goods, as well as the fixed costs, which include the cost of labor, facilities, and equipment. Question 2. Your friend has provided you with various cost and revenue drivers for his existing coffee shop. We'll provide you with some of that data now. 10,000 items are sold per month in the shop. Fixed costs include $6,000 per month on labor and $60,000 per year on rent. There are 3 types of items sold in the coffee shop: specialty coffee, drip coffee, and baked goods. We have sales, pricing, and variable cost data for each item. Given this data, what profit can he expect? Ready for the answer? There are a few ways to approach the math here, some lengthier than others. You could calculate the profit by subtracting the costs from the revenue of each product. Here are some calculations if you're curious. Or you could multiply the quantity by the average margin and subtract the fixed costs. And here are the calculations. Don't forget that these are just 2 initial questions from a longer case. Questions will build in difficulty as you move through the case. Refresh your knowledge on the following concepts: profit calculations, break-even points, weighted averages, unit conversion, differentiating incremental and cumulative impacts. We'll leave you with a few more tips to help you ace your interview. The best way to prepare for a case interview is to practice. Successful candidates typically spend 4 to 6 hours preparing. And don't be afraid to practice interviews and do calculations in front of others. Utilize case prep materials, which can be found online. We suggest focusing on interviewer-led cases, which apply problem-solving and a quantitative assessment of various business problems, rather than more abstract concepts, like estimating the number of golf balls it would take to fill a 747 airplane. But do note that the formats of many common practice cases don't match those of Capital One cases. A major difference between our interview cases and cases you find online is that Capital One cases are interviewer-driven instead of interviewee-driven. The Capital One provided practice case is most similar format-wise. Don't put too much focus on memorization. Make sure you have a clear understanding of simple concepts like revenue and profit. The interviewer wants you to succeed and will help guide you in the right direction, so listen to the interviewer's prompts. During the interview, don't be afraid to ask your interviewer clarifying questions. It will help you keep on track and avoid misunderstanding or errors in calculations. Be concise with your calculations and explain your logic and thought process. Structure your answers well for qualitative questions. It helps to give a list of broad answers and topics first, and then go in depth into each of them. We hope that you feel better prepared for your case study interview. Remember, our goal is to help you succeed and feel confident about a future at Capital One.